Hi. So this part of the recording, it's been edited down to take out the messing around involved in students actually undertaking the poll activity, answering some questions. But what you'll hear is, and see if you're watching it on video, is the responses to the questions and my comments and observations and insights. I'd be really interested, for those of you who weren't in class, to get those same answers. I'll share the poll with you all, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this group plays out over time. Thanks for bearing with me. I've got most of you in there. Be really interested to hear from any of you about some of the observations here. Some of this is just straight research for me, right? I'm going to think about how to adopt my class. So I've got the vast majority of you who have responded, excuse me, are in Vietnam at the moment. So we've only got one who's on this group that's somewhere else. Well, two, because I'm somewhere else, and the next I know there's at least one who sent me an apology because he will be in a different time zone that makes this completely untenable. This is really interesting, and I did not expect to see that almost half of you have studied online before. That's awesome, because now I'm going to ask you, those of you who've studied online before, to think about the best things, the best parts of your experience studying online and the worst parts of your experience. And if, when you've got a second, you could throw those into the chat, or if you could send me an email, that will help me work out the best way to work with you. By the end of this semester, I think every university student in the world will have studied online a little bit. What kind of things are worrying you? I'm glad that nobody so far has said this class will be boring. By the way, I'm pretty sure that this is anonymous, so you could say anything you liked, really. But even if it's not anonymous, I'm not going to be looking at who said what. So I'm glad you're not worried it'll be boring. And I really will be doing my best to make sure it's not. The key things are it's really interesting, isn't it? That one of the things that is really concerning people is, oh, sorry about that. Let me just fix that to make it better. That's better. Harder to meet people studying, but you're also worried about group work. Now, it's really interesting, group work, and I know, and I should have asked this question. My guess is that most of you, this is your first MBA subject or your first degree subject if you're doing an MBA. If you're in the EMBA or the MIB or another course, you might be doing it as an elective or as to fill in a gap. But I suspect many of you it'll be your first course, which is doubly sad for this situation because they're the people that you meet. But it's such a great opportunity. So one of the things that I hear all the time from MBA students when they're graduating, I usually ask them, what's the best thing and what's the worst thing? Best thing, the people I met. Worst thing, group work. They don't go together because that's how you meet people. So group work, often it is the way that you go about doing the group work that is really difficult. So I suspect in this environment, particularly when you're going to be forced in some ways to work initially with people who you might not have picked because they won't be people who look like you, when you're working with these people, you get an opportunity to work with a diverse group and get to know people really quite well. And for some people, particularly those who are shy, will find talking to somebody over chat can be easier than actually being in a room, particularly when often in MBAs, MBA classes, we have big personalities, strong-willed people ready to make a stand and a show in the world. And then we'll have people who are very shy and are doing this as a stretch goal. So often online can sort of even that out, and we don't only hear from the noisy people. If there is something else that's worrying you, please do email me. But thank you for that, because that's going to take me, that's that's going to help me work out how to make this class work for you, because every class is different. Every class has its own personality, and I need to work out how to work best with you. Saigon traffic is crazy. It is nice to be able to wake up. So there are some good things. There is at least one person who's seeing nothing good, and I'm really sorry about that. But this is my goal then, is to find ways for you to find a benefit in this. And I like to have a challenge, so I'm very happy about that. So as I can see, we've got an absolute majority here doing MBAs. We've got one exec MBA person, 2 Masters of International Business. The one person who's doing something else, do you want to whack into the chat? Sorry, I'm going to speak with Australian slang. That happens. Would you mind putting into the chat what your program is? And I'll try and gather this information as well from the class members who weren't able to be here. And again, I am going to try and mix you up a bit over the course of the semester in your group work, so that, well, clearly every group is going to have some MBA students in it, but I'm going to try and split the rest of you around and make sure that it makes sense. The vast majority of you have got 2 years or fewer work experience. Only one who's here that has none, and a couple with less than a year. So we're at the setting out on our career stage on the whole. But again, I'm going to mix around some of those people who've got more experience with some of the people who have less, so that we can get the benefit of all. One of the great things about having a group with somebody who has limited or no work experience is they ask the hard questions, when they're brave anyway, that they don't just assume this is the way things have always been done. So, and just looking at the ways that you've been working, we've got majority not working, which actually I probably should have changed that question to make it, other than for your work being stalled. But again, we've got a bit of a mixture there of different kinds of businesses or not working at all. So if you're not working at all, I'm expecting lots of attention being paid to this course, which